Welcome back to the Amai podcast. There are so many contrasting viewpoints in the world on the value of motherhood and its impact. For this reason, I wanted to bring on Dr. Stephen F. Duncan, who holds a PhD in family studies from Purdue University and has a 40-year career as a marriage and family relationships educator. Let's hear from him and hear what he has to say on this topic. Okay, I want to welcome Dr. Stephen Duncan with us tonight. We're very, very grateful that you're willing to come with all of your experience, almost 40 years on this topic. Can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure, love to. I was born and raised in inner city, Salt Lake City, Utah, and there was a tragic event that occurred in my family. When I was only 3, there was an auto pedestrian accident directly in front of my house, and my oldest brother ran inside, screaming, telling my mother, "Oh, Mom, it's Dad." And what had happened is that my father had crossed Main Street and from the other side of the road and was struck by a car. And he died later, 3 hours later, from his injuries.
I'm so sorry.
It was tragic. I don't have much memory. In fact, I have no memory of my father, conscious memory. But I can remember the screech and the attention, because I was at a neighbor's house and I ran out. And then I ran home, and my mother was crying. My brothers were crying. I started crying.
Yes.
I'm not sure whether I was told yet that Dad had been hit. But in any event, that left all of us, ages 3. I'm the youngest, and all 5 boys.
Boys.
My oldest brother was 14, fatherless at that time. What was exposed then over the next little while, actually probably 1 to 2 years, was the strength and resiliency of my mother, and who was left alone to raise us 5 sons. And she was a powerful work of art. And I could brag about her all day. But you may hear examples as we talk today about Mom's resilience and how she made it work, how she became a successful businesswoman in a field that the odds of being successful are very low. And that was the story of my mother. Wow. She didn't remarry until 11 years later. And at that time, the professional advice, which she paid close attention to. She had book after book that she would read about, what do I do now? How do I raise boys?
Right. And doing it alone.
Handling alone. How do I do that? And but the professional advice discouraged remarriage at that time. Better to work it out on your own, because social workers, they said, were having more challenges with step-family systems.
Interesting.
So she delayed getting remarried until 11 years later.
Raising 5 sons.
And I was 14 by the time that good stepdad tried to enter the family, and that was a difficult feat for him. But that's another story. Here we are focused on mothers and the power of mothers and how mothers are not given as much credit as they deserve, and research bears out the unique place of mothers that often isn't trumpeted on the housetops. So this opportunity is an opportunity to get it out there and hopefully to sink deeply within the minds and hearts of the moms who are listening out, currently moms or moms-to-be, and to allow themselves to be lifted by good scientific research, well-demonstrated, good studies, and good principles that we can take from those, as well as practices that we can pass on to future generations.
Wow, that's powerful. It's amazing that you had such an incredible example to look to. The strength and resilience of your mom to go through something like that is just astounding. So I would love to dive in. as we think about moms throughout the country and throughout the world. Like you said, they're really not being shown the impact that they can have and the impact that we all have. Can you go into this?
I can. Part of that is because of the perspective that's been given about motherhood across the ages. That is in part influenced by cultural influences that have devalued motherhood. Oh, anybody can do it type of thing. I sing the same song when I work with married or pre-married couples. We think all you need is, if you've seen a marriage, you know how to do a marriage. And people who marry without little preparation soon find out, probably should have learned a little more about that one. So, well, with motherhood, there has been so much devaluing that it has reduced the communication about the science. For example, and what I like to talk about with moms and dads, because dads need to hear this message too, because sometimes dads are part of the problem in terms of devaluing. Right. But one message that mothers get comes over a religious pulpit talking about that motherhood is the highest and holiest of all calls.
Right.
It's the most important work that anyone can be given. On the flip side, you hear another voice that says, well, motherhood is the least valued work anyone could do. Certainly a woman could do.
Yes, and we feel that. I mean, those messaging, it's strong. There's a lot of it out there that women are getting bombarded with.
Yeah. Women are not, when you become a mother, you're not offered a promotion.
Yeah.
You're not, right? Yeah. And you're not given a raise.
Right, or a gold star.
Or a gold
pat
star.
On the back. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you don't get. Whereas, because in the world it's about power and promotions, income. Those are the things that kind of tick. However, now those are direct contrasts, very stark contrast. There was a wonderful economist, Anne Crittenden, who you ought to look her up, see what she's doing now. But she gave a talk once, and she's an economist. And it was stunning what she said about what mothers actually contribute in terms of gross domestic product.
Interesting.
In the United States. She said approximately 2/3 of the gross domestic product in the United States is created by human capital.
Okay.
By curious, capable, skilled human beings who become skilled in these ways only when they are nurtured well as children. Ooh. Now, based on her very detailed economic analysis, she concludes that mothers are society's greatest wealth producers.
Wow. And yet we're told the exact opposite. Why are you, spending your time doing that when you could be helping the economy grow with this job or this job or this job or this,
Really? And you're using your talent to do what? They will say things like that.
Right.
Cruel, mean, often thoughtless, but this is one way that I think Crittenden's work helps to kind of correct what is missing, because the tendency is to be so much of an economic analysis.
Right.
So, okay, bring in the economist. Yeah. And this is what she taught us. She came as, this is a lecture, but she has a book out. You just look up Anne Crittenden, do your Google searching.
Yeah.
I don't have the reference for you. But for me, those are powerful excerpts about the way motherhood is talked about. nowadays, ranging from the highest and holiest of all the way to the least valued. But then you've got an economist who said, you're the greatest income producer.
Right. Wow.
Now, I think what your listeners want to, and what I'm hoping that they hone in on, is what lists them most about what they are hearing. For example, I would hope that the voice, we get to choose what voices that we are going to listen to.
Right.
Here's some other voices.
Okay.
Or maybe you'd like to add in a few voices of your own. But here's one young mother. She said, before I became pregnant, somebody told me, don't have a baby. Babies ruin your body.
That is a strong one.
That's a strong one. How about this one? My body is full of life. My body is powerful. My body made me a mother.
What a difference.
So which animal are you going to feed? Which thought pattern about mothering, motherhood are you going to feed? But anyway, there's a range of ideas, a range of thoughts, a range of propaganda.
Yeah.
Some would say both positive and negative, but which one for you? Which one fits?
And the fact that we can choose that. We choose, like you said, what animal do you feed? It's almost that analogy of, what wolf. If you choose to feed one, it will get stronger. And if you feed the other, that one will get stronger. So those messages that we're letting play out in our head and that are happening in our head over and over and over and over and over again, what is that making us feel? And what it should be making a person feel is truly valuable. And I think that's what you're really wanting to help these moms understand.
There's so much of value. And I did talk a little bit about my own mother in terms of how valuable and how bare essential she was in our family life. But we'll get to that perhaps a little bit later. But
can you tell us about nurturing, this idea, this topic that we don't talk about a lot in our society right now?
Yeah, we don't. I think maybe it's become a politically unpopular kind of thing because of the increasing emphasis on mothers doing it all. And that's okay. There's a lot of mothers who do it all. They are professional. They are moms. They are all things.
Right.
Excellent.
They're wearing a lot of hats.
They're wearing a lot of hats. And I applaud that. My mother was an example of someone who just found a way to manage all of that. And I'm so proud of her. But scholars agree that the central work of mothering is really nurturing. And nurturing is often defined as something like work that is wholly child-centered, not H-O-L-Y, but wholly. It demands everything. You leave it out there. Wholly child-centered, emotionally involving, and time-consuming. What mother doesn't know that?
Yes.
Right? And it's mainly through their experience with their mothers that children develop their identity and learn their place in society. Now, this is not negative for dads. Dads also contribute very specific things, but mothers spend more time with children. They are their first contact in utero. I think of my Barbara. Before our babies were born, she would be singing or reciting the ABCs.
Cute.
To those children in utero. I would be joining her. Now, they came out pretty smart. The first two were scholarship kids. And anyway, that's totally anecdotal. But in any event, moms are frontline in terms of that first contact. and which is something that should be well understood. Another thing that I think is often overlooked is even by the people who are either touting or being critical of moms when they choose this as either a full-time or a synergistic role with their other busy parts of their life. When they pay attention, sometimes they pay more attention to the tasks of motherhood and forget that it's really about a relationship.
And those relationships take so much time. And it's so easy, though, in a different role to say, ooh, look what I did. I sent an email and I got this presentation ready, and but in motherhood, it's not as easy to see that because we're playing the long game.
Excellent point. You can't quantify relational kinds of things over time so carefully when they happen in minutes and seconds. And interaction. Those who study relationships and will talk about recording nanoseconds of interaction.
Wow.
Just the exchange of information, the smallest component of that being these emotional bids that all relationships are engaged in at some level.
You're saying a nanosecond, are you saying like even, a glance at someone? Is that what that's what they're calculating?
Even a glance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
My good colleagues at the previous university where I just retired from, the infancy researchers will record interaction between mothers, primarily mother-baby kinds of interactions, and are able to infer who's going to do well over time, who's going to have strong attachments one to another.
Based on just those very beginning relationships.
Yes. And so mothers are in the driver's seat with that. And when we're talking about nurturance, we're also talking about, again, a set of relationships, but we're talking about certain aspects of nurturing. And these aspects of nurturing, we can get down to brass tacks with these, because one of the things I hope listeners and viewers will think about, well, are there things I can do to enhance the nurturing that's going on with myself, baby, young children, teenagers, whomever, seeing it as a relationship and things not just to check off a box that I can do.
Like, oh, I did the laundry, I did this. Yes, so much deeper than that.
But these are components of what leads to long-term positive cognitive, behavioral, emotional, positive outcomes for our youngsters. For example, you've probably heard of the concept, or listeners have heard about attachment.
Yes.
Attachment theory has been applied very broadly to relationships of all sorts, including pre-marriage and marriage and assessing attachment styles and things of that nature. And going back to the very early research of John Bowlby, where he was able, and Mary Ainsworth, they were able to demonstrate that kids who have a secure attachment with their parental figures, but here tonight we're talking about moms, with their mother, do better, fare better, short-term and long-term.
Can you briefly, for those listening that don't understand, the main attachments, can you just briefly just explain those just really quickly?
Well, there's secure attachment, which is our aim, which is based on consistency and involved parenting. Those kinds of things promote a secure attachment. Insecure attachment is when, or ambivalent attachment, insecure attachment is when those patterns are not consistent, inconsistent.
So that
And so they have a difficult time trusting in a relational setting. And some of this plays out even as kids become young adults and begin to want to form relationships of their own themselves. If there's been an insecure bonding between parents and child, they have a difficult time moving into that, trusting enough. And ambivalent is just, I really don't know if I can really do this, if I can be an all-in relational kind of a person. But it's fostered, the secure attachment is fostered early on. Maternal sensitivity is a big component of that. For example, young children begin to give us cues and clues very early on. I have a new granddaughter.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She's a redhead and delightful. We call her Sweet Adeline. I do, and sing a song along with it. But Adeline is just starting to demonstrate pretty consistently certain cues, and Mom, her mother, responds to those. The obvious ones, okay, there's hunger, there's pain.
There's something that the child needs.
There's something that the child needs. And it's time to drill down into that to find out what's going on. Check the diaper, all sorts of things that might be part of that need system. But maternal sensitivity in this context of attachment and nurturance has been shown to be one of the strongest predictors of cognitive and emotional well-being. Extending on into young adulthood is the extent of the research that's been done in this area.
And what would they say is young adulthood? What is the ages of that? Are they?
Well, young adulthood is 18 to 25.
18 to 25.
That's usually the range that's
wow. So if these relationships are, invested in and they build these attachments, you can see the effects all the way to someone at least, up until they're 25. And if those child's needs aren't met and there's an insecure attachment, they don't trust, then that can also have a negative effect through their whole life.
Now, it doesn't mean they can never develop those.
Right.
But again, there's a reason.
These are huge effects is what we're talking about. These are huge impacts.
When you're aware of them as parents, you want to take the steps to make sure that, okay, even if we're in a childcare situation, what can we do to make sure that there are secure attachment bonding going on?
That is being formed.
And that we don't place that at risk. And research shows, supports the idea that if there is a healthy bonding pattern within those childcare situations, particularly when it involves somebody in the childcare setting who's a crazy about you person, kind of what Uri Bronfenbrenner used to talk about, that every child needs somebody who's crazy about them, thinks that they're better than other kids. And they just, it's all about being crazy about them. And so you're more likely to get that from grandparents, for example. The near environment of those kids who, for some reason, need to be in childcare settings. But even if that's not possible, parents need to be really
deliberate,
intentional about making sure and assessing what kind of attachments are taking place. Not that you're leaving them in a room and going away. Kids are kids.
Yeah.
They need moms and dads. And moms, it's been shown in this particular research how important this early attachment is. This warmth, this love, the way mom interacts. As important as dads are, particularly in playfulness, throwing the child up in the air and maybe catching them when they come down. Those are really important dimensions of ways father plays. But it's the maternal sensitivity. It's this way mom interacts
that is really seen
really key. We had an emotionally challenged youngster at a very young age, And he would not be with Dad, holding him tightly on his lap. No, he wanted Mom.
He just wanted Mom.
It needed to be Mom. He was just a little tyke. But she held him close until he
Calmed down.
calm, could get calm.
Wow. There's so much of that, I think, that we could dive into, and to really understand how important even just attachment is, and being able to understand what we can do to rebuild attachment. If there's, there's so much on this topic. And it comes down to nurturing. Are we deliberate about how we are connecting a relationship with a child and nurturing them to help them truly thrive?
Beautiful. We often talk about emotion work, and this is also an important element of nurturing, and it's strengthening the emotional well-being and the relationships. So I mentioned one of my children who had some emotional challenges, and he was held, but then ultimately Mom helps youngsters more than dads to facilitate conversations about feelings. Okay, these things, what's troubling you?
What's wrong, sweetheart?
What's wrong,
what's
sweetheart?
happening? Yeah.
Tell me how you feel. Tell me what, or even putting, a picture, several faces, and if they're younger, and
say, how are you feeling? Which one of these describes
which
your
one
feeling?
of these? Yeah, and then but listening carefully to family members' feelings, recognizing the importance of feelings, and offering encouragement, expressing appreciation, asking questions to elicit family members' sharing of feelings. So for some reason, in the research, it shows moms are really good at this. Better, evidently, a little better on average than our dads in normalizing the discussion of feelings. And let's talk through this. And so,
and I'm sure that helps children process those, right?
Yeah.
And dads can be great, and they can also be the ones that are, buck it up, you can do this, instead of why are you feeling that way, sweetie?
But whether it's moms or dads, they each can learn the skill of what colleagues call emotion coaching. In other words, we can be taught how to bring the emotions out of our youngsters so that they can talk about these things in the light of day and not keep them hidden
and closed off.
And not put them down when they have angry feelings, for example. A story I like to tell is I've had 5 children and 3 sons, 2 daughters. And my oldest son all my kids are, I would say, are quite bright. And they got through their high school experiences without much involvement from us as parents, educationally.
Nice.
Until
you must have done something right. That's all I can say.
I don't know. Well, I didn't do. I got D's in geometry, so I didn't have the math chops. I had to work. I had to really work hard in graduate school to even develop what I got. But this particular son came home very, very frustrated as a freshman in college. He had gotten into a class that had truly challenged him in ways that I could help him.
Oh.
First time.
Nice.
He slid through physics, slid through some of this advanced math stuff, but when it came to this one class, and I won't say what it is because it'll too quickly identify him. He may not want to be identified. but see, because his dad's a musician and was a music major in college, I can help you with that. And so we went over to my piano, which is an old upright grand piano, and we had a music theory lesson. And I taught him about chord progressions and intervals, and
it finally all started to click.
all these bells went off in his head.
Interesting.
He got it. But see, when he came in, was so upset. Initially, he just blurted out and was just so angry. And I was upset with him in turn. What do you mean so upset about that? Which is against what I would normally advise people to do. You know, Dad needed to go calm down. So we could come back and have a normalized discussion about feelings and disappointments. And when I'm saying moms do that more natively,
Yes.
in general, and but we can all work on.
We can all get to the point of understanding how to do that ourselves and
Yes.
help others do that.
And the emotion coaching model is a good way to go. There's a good scholar researcher, John Gottman, who has written a book about emotion coaching.
Yes.
And it's got some great stuff in there. I'd recommend that to your reader viewers.
Okay. I'll put that in the link for sure.
The other thing is, okay, we've talked about emotion, but also cognitive stimulation and teaching.
Okay.
This is another area where moms excel. And maybe this is because the reason why moms have the most influence in intellectual development and children's learning perhaps is related to just spending more time in general with them, because there's other research that shows that dads pick up on that, and they are and in fact in career choices and things of that nature, fathers tend to have a more dominant influence. But also the moral teacher, not just cognitive stimulation and teaching, but also the moral teacher, her teaching of wisdom and truth tends to safeguard against risky behaviors, such as early teen sexual acting out, illicit drug use, and underage alcohol use, for example, are some of those. So moms should never, the upshot of that, or the conclusion of that piece is, should never underestimate their influence for good on their children's cognition, their intellectual skills, and their moral development and
foundations,
behavior.
Interesting.
But one of the things, because mom was being full-time mom, and she had her business on the property, she built it as a genuine home-based business, built on to garages, into basements, and had an office out back.
Okay.
And so I could come after a troubled day at elementary school and open the office door, and Mom would turn her chair toward me and let me talk.
Oh.
That's what she did.
Even as busy as she was.
Even as busy as she was.
She was emotionally available.
She was emotionally available. She was practicing maternal sensitivity. My son, my relationship with this young boy is more important than any of the bookkeeping, than any of the candy bar invoices that I'm currently busy with at this moment. And she would do this. Now, one time in high school, when emotions are more
surfacey, yes,
and complex, and you experience love towards some people, like you're the sweetheart that I was in the pit work doing for Fiddler on the Roof, and she was up on stage, and I was just crushing on her. She was crushing on Ron.
Oh.
And my name's not Ron. And I came home after rehearsal just in tears.
Oh.
And I sat in the front room, and Mom turned off her favorite program, or a program she was watching on television and just sat there and let me talk and let me get it out. She did not say, she was a good listener, which is also an element of this conversation about feelings, is that we don't interject our feelings or interpretations. We're there to understand.
Okay.
We're turning toward that person and letting them share their feelings.
Right.
So she didn't insert something like, you'll find another one. You're only 17. There's so many other fish in the sea.
Just go do another. Yeah. She just listened.
Yeah, she just listened. There's no one like this. There's no one like Sue. I could say, in response to that.
Right.
Another aspect of the nurturing Mom did that might be helpful to viewers and listeners. One of the things, and this is part of the model of nurturing, is to pay attention to individual characteristics of the children. We really tune into what their individual talents, abilities, needs are.
Okay.
Now, when I told Mom that I wanted a snare drum for my fourth grade Christmas as a fourth grader,
wow,
I had in mind just a drum that I could beat on,
right,
make a lot of noise in. Now, Mom, sensitive as she was, and she was taking a long view, as we've talked about. She said, I'll get you a drum, but it's not going to be one of those. We'll get you a good drum, and you'll take lessons.
Wow. She was able to see that interest. Ooh, he has an interest.
She was able to see
Let's encourage, let's facilitate.
And so she did. And so not just me, but she also saw my brother. He was a guitar player. She got him a guitar and amp. So that first Christmas together with a snare drum and an amplifier and a guitar, we made sweet music together.
And here she was able to be that one, instead of just, Mom, can I have this? Sure, here's something. She could see probably the potential in you of those gifts and talents. I mean, you said you went on to be a music major.
Yes. And I was a percussionist. That's what I was. That was where the connection was. I was going to go into business, but then I ended up going into music.
Wow.
Now, there was other life experiences that happened to change my trajectory there.
Wow.
But,
wow. So that nurturing, that
attentiveness, attentive love is so critical. The attachment, the examining of gifts and talents, characteristics, so that our parenting can be individualized parenting.
Right.
So important for moms. Wow. And Mom was the only one we had.
Yeah.
And so we, bless her, she just knew how to, and we were the musicians and my brothers were the race car drivers. They had a big garage outside where had extra room to build drag racers. And so that's what they did. She still helped to underwrite.
With helping them do that.
Because they're kids. She couldn't.
Right.
She had a creative use of credit.
Of helping. Yeah.
Various ways of helping her
sons develop, right?
Exactly.
Develop this. I have a quick question on this idea of really paying close attention to that child and really connecting with them. Have you seen through the decades what's happened with phones, and if that's had an effect on mothers being able to connect as well with their children?
Yeah, the phones, smartphone, and is the and when you say mostly it's the social media that is available ubiquitously on our phones that seems to divide our attention. And it divides attention between couples and where we go to our phones for our spare moments instead of looking at each other and processing a show that we just saw. And for example, that tendency can be there, and and with kids as well. I'm a recommender that kids younger than 16 do not have cell phones or do not have internet access to those.
Interesting.
There's just too much at risk. But a funny GIF I saw showed people sitting around the dinner table, all on their cell phones, rather than having a conversation about, so how was your day today? What went well for you today? So we cut into family conversations unless we do something management-wise with those media, such as putting them in a basket, or turning them off during the time when this is family time and nothing interferes with family time.
Keeping that so...
You have to be more intentional nowadays, because the opportunities for using that instead
is just so easy. It's just so easy to default to that.
And actually diminishing the quality of the relational connection, the relationship connection between actual humans. Are we willing to turn that over to AI and everything else that we can access on phone rather than this heartfelt emotional connection that's fostered eye to eye, knee to knee.
And eye to eye, because there's so many times I feel like with, moms or parents or people in general where we might be doing so many different things with our phone, and someone might, one of my kids might come up and I'm talking to them, but I'm really looking at my phone because I'm trying to finish something on my phone, but I'm not disconnecting and looking them straight in their eyes. So I've just wondered what effect that phones have, even on eye contact with children. I mean, there's just so much that has changed.
Yeah. And the research isn't old enough, long-term assessed the impact of that.
Right.
So we don't have, I don't think we have good longitudinal data, long-term data that would actually see that. But I would predict, unless well managed, we lose the emotional connections, the positive benefit that come from the face-to-face interactions, the turning toward a loved one.
You're talking physically, like physically turning towards someone.
Physically looking at and having an exchange. There's places for that, like let you and I go in the next room and get on the gamer, and there's places for that, but it still involves an exchange and interchange and interaction. I need to say one thing about, now there are different ways that parents nurture. Mothers nurture, I alluded to this before. Mothers nurturing is largely the most highly predictive of well-being with kids is this maternal sensitivity component. Okay. And dads also influence those elements, but tonight's our mom stuff. But it's important to say that mother nurturing is qualitatively different than other nurturing. I'm just going to say
let's go into this. Yeah.
Okay. What mothers do as part of this package of nurturing is qualitatively different, has a qualitatively different outcome than others. And this means even good substitutes that might jump in and do that thing. And my importance of emphasizing that is not to make any mother who's listening or watching feel guilty about what they are not able to do as fully as they would like to.
They're all trying.
But, they need to know what they bring to the table that they may not be fully aware of. For both boys and girls, mothering is more important for those pro-social behaviors. So mother nurturing places those boys and girls in pro-social behavior a cut above than those who don't get that positive, nurturing mother actions. And mother involvement, and this extends also to adolescence. Now, a lot of moms get frustrated with their adolescents, right? And parents get frustrated with their adolescents, but it's kind of a hang in there. Keep that mother involvement coming because research shows it's positively connected to pro-social behavior, even among adolescents, and also hope. So this is a characteristic of being optimistic about one's future. When you are hopeful, you are glad that there's going to be another day. You look forward to something in the future that you're going to be a part of, that you have a belief that you're going to be a part of, that kind of cluster of hopefulness,
positivity
that we want to nurture in our adolescents who are not what shall I say, who are often down on themselves, down on their future.
And it's such a hard time. Adolescence is hard, I feel like, in
So
any age of history, but I feel like especially now, right? And so if moms, from what I hear you're saying moms can, if you can facilitate that relationship, you can give them that hope and that optimism that can carry them through more of their life, it sounds like.
Yeah. Keep your mother nurturing hat on. Don't let them push back so far on you that you cut it off. I don't want no relationship with you. You may want to take a time out. Parents need time out. Adolescents, kids need time out.
Right.
But it's more often parents could use the time out when they're dealing with some of the challenges that they have. But still come back and
have that
and be engaged.
Connection. Yeah.
I mentioned about my son that I blew up at because he was having a hard time with his music theory. I put myself in timeout because I was getting out of hand. But I came back. It was after getting calm and being the adult in the room. Well, he's an adult.
He was an adult.
A freshman adult. Ain't too adult. But we still had the time to share some really cool experiences at the piano.
Connect that way.
Connect.
Wow. That's amazing. I love hearing all of these different ways that moms can nurture and the impacts that they have from young, middle age, adolescent, all the way up to, through their lives. It's incredible. So yeah, is there anything else that you want to talk about as far as nurturing?
The only thing about nurturing that I would add is that this is a workout. Nurturing is hard. And of course, all the mothers out there know that this is hard. And because it's hard, mothers need to take time to nurture themselves as well and make sure that they get that time to nurture their own minds, their own hearts, their own bodies, so that when it comes to engaging with youngsters, they can devote their heart, mind, and body
you have a place to give when
those things.
Yeah, when you've invested in yourself, you have that ability.
You can't give if you've got an empty vessel.
Yeah.
You got to go and fill it up. Now, my mom is a single parent who tried to do it all. Yeah. Even she found time to go down the street to the terrace ballroom and dance.
Really?
With whoever she got to dance with. And one of those guys happened to propose to her.
Your stepdad.
Ended up being my stepdad. But that was a real respite for her. She could get out of the business world and just go participate. And that was a respite for her. Also a respite for her was her religious devotions. And now after that experience, my mother spent a lot of time
in the places that she called holy.
Places that she called holy. And she went with a friend who supported her. And she and Elaine spent a lot of time together doing that service and gaining that respite.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Now, if you're married, husbands have to be involved in making sure that they, because this is mothering, and no one else can adequately take the place of a mother. That's what the nurturing literature says. Mother nurturing is different than other nurturing. So in order to enable mother nurturing to happen well, dad needs to also step in, give her breaks, so she can go off and
rest, recuperate.
So they should be doing all they can to enable her work as a mother to flourish, because she is, according to my good friend Janet Jacobs Erickson, she is the central nurturer of your greatest treasure. And so to make that happen,
it's so important.
you need to set up a collaboration. It should be collaborative parenting anyway. All the best research shows the importance of synergistically working as a husbands and wives, mothers and fathers, when those family systems exist.
Can you, if you have just a couple minutes, can you give any tips on moms that might be going through this journey alone? We know that there's, I think research right now is saying about, in the US at least, about 1 in 4 women are raising their children without a father in the home. What advice can you help these women?
Well, the focus today is, tonight's been on nurturing, and so I would be wanting to enable her to to get the personal nurturance that she can away from the job of, and which can be a grind of everyday parenting. I mentioned the example of what my mother did. There's also other things that can be done as well. In our family, the role of the extended family became very vital, where this is possible, and it's not always possible, where there's extended families such as grandparents, such as uncles and aunts,
to step in and help.
And they take over. They become, for example, the uncles become the father figures that might be missing in sons' lives, sons and daughters' lives. In my mother's case, that's what happened. My grandfather was the one who facilitated my mother getting educational training so she could get the chops that she needed to run a business.
Right.
He helped her get the confidence that she could go forward, and also with the help of other persons who were assisting in that educational training, that she could approach intimidating clientele, potential clientele, with confidence. And she secured accounts, vending accounts that had all sorts of vending machines set in there. But Grandpa stepped in as an educator, professional educator himself, to make sure that Mom got the skills she needed to run the business. The accounting part of it is a challenge. She had typing skills. That's what she brought.
Right.
But she also was dogged and determined and resilient. She's 4'11", and she's very dynamic. And she went out and whipped those accounts out, and she was very successful. So this simple idea of involving the extended family, and the extended family realizing that they should be lending support when it's needed, not like they come in and interfere, but they perceive a need and they get in
come
there.
in and try to help.
Yeah. And we had neighbors do the same thing. They came in unannounced and picked up our laundry and took it to their house and did our laundry.
Wow.
This was during the time, long time after my dad had passed away.
Oh, so this wasn't just right after. This was...
Yeah, I don't know precisely how long it was.
But you had someone
But in
come
any event,
in.
we had a network. We had a church network. We had an extended family network. Mom had a lot of people supporting her. So single parents now that's in the 50s. Can single parents now do that same thing? Of course they can. They may need to be a little more creative with extended family.
And sometimes people don't have family that live so close.
Who live so close.
So.
But there's Zoom.
Yeah.
There's the internet. There's
still ways to connect.
There's still ways to connect. And it's connecting, which is, that connection piece is the smallest element of emotional connection. And so if we can find ways to connect regularly, in that it emerges as a pattern, it can do its miraculous work.
That's so much of what we all need in this world, right? As we see this world, I feel like more people and more relationships are dividing than connecting. And so it sounds like, especially as the core of mothers, that we are there to build that, to facilitate those relationships and those connections. Wow.
And the research supports that makes a difference in ways that are measurable in the short term and the long term, and that are unique, that mothers bring as part of being a mother. But what we do have found is it's mothers who are doing that. Wow. And mothers as nurturers is a big thing.
Wow. Well, I'm so grateful that you were able to come tonight and share this with us and share the research, share what women are doing as mothers to help truly grow and build society in stable ways. And we need them. We need strong mothers. So thank you for sharing tonight.
My pleasure.